Bryce Miller and Brian Wu, they come up this year and, they perform right away. Bryce Miller has a stellar debut. He comes in with that fastball that plays up due to the spin rate, to the spin efficiency. If you want to talk to that fastball, to the average fan, what that means and why it plays up. And then, yeah, speak to Bryce Miller, Brian Wu, their rookie seasons and the contributions that they made.
For sure. Bryce Miller, one of the uh, most developed guys this season. I mean that dude came in with one pitch and he left with like 14. Bryce Miller's fastball, it's like a Lamborghini engine. Like it's a better engine than Toyota Corolla, which is not the
Right.
average. Um, it's a bigger, better engine. And unlike Gilbert, Kirby, like not a super tall guy. Throws from like over top, but it's kind of like a low release, so it has like this kind of upshoot, um, flat vertical approach angle. So where most guys, like tall guys, it's kind of coming downhill. He kind of throws his flat and with that high spin um, and ride to it. When he throws it up in the zone, it just kind of takes off up there. Couple that with 96 to 100, you have a really good fastball. Uh, and the fact that he just chucks it down the middle, man, like I'm just going to chuck it at you. He's not trying to be cute. He's not afraid. He'll give up, his fair share of homers because of that. But check any Cy Youngs, any years like power pitchers give up solo homers because they challenge guys. And he definitely took on the challenge.
Yeah.
Similar to Logan, similar to most guys coming up from the minor leagues, like they have a weapon, and you're just trying to build everything around that. He's got the big fastball, and the secondary stuff. We spent all season, tweaking and adjusting and evolving and experimenting, and unleashing. Again, like um, it's gonna take forever. You see Sonny Gray is nowhere near the same guy that he was when he debuted in his
Mhm.
first 2 3 years. Like the good pitchers in this game continue to evolve. Bryce Miller evolved a ton this year, and the trust that he and Bryan put into Trent and Vody and I, trying any suggestions that we have, sticking to what is simple and keeps them successful every 5 days, while also tinkering and experimenting with some things is not easy. Um, you got a ton of distractions, you got a ton of pressures, you got a ton of people watching you, talking about you for the first time in your life, and there's 50,000 people watching you every night, and then millions on TV, and you're trying to learn a new pitch in between every start. It's not easy. What those guys were able to do wasn't incredible. I'm extremely proud of how they were able to balance that development and compete. Um, Brian Wu, even lower release, like his ball's coming out of the sprinkler head, which we used to joke around with Seawald. Like Seawald only threw like 92, but it came out of the sprinkler and just like went straight uphill. Guys just don't
Right.
see that. You don't
Mhm.
practice that. Like BP is thrown right here. It's machines are, you don't really set up machines 3 feet over towards third base and then shoot it uphill. Like it's just different.
Mhm.
Uh, but Wu, after learning what we learned last year with the two fastballs, which I got to shout out to our hitting coaches, Jarrett DeHart and Tony Arnrich. We all lived together, and I'd watch them uh, game plan for the next night's starter or at the beginning of the series. Watching all of their relievers, going through all the like game planning for these pitchers, and and we'd be sitting there at night, and one of them would be like, "Ah, shit, this guy's got two fastballs. Why is why are you so upset?" He's like, "Well, he cables four seams like away, but then he also threw a two seam like in off. Like you can't cover both of those. And it was like light bulb. Um,
Yeah.
there's always been two fastballs, and there's always guys have thrown fours, guys have thrown twos. Like it's always existed, but it wasn't until I saw like how frustrated those guys would get when guys had two fastballs and used them appropriately. And then you watch the game the next night, and you're like, man, that guy just got torn up by a guy with two fastballs. Um, and so, Robbie started, George jumped on. A handful of guys started doing it this year. Everybody in our pin even had two fastballs. Um, everybody but Logan had two heaters. But so we kind of tried to instill that in spring training, trying to see guys that had a profile that could throw two fastballs. Bryan Wu was one of those, and so he spent a little bit of time in Double A throwing a two seam. He was dominating people with his four seam, so it was like, why throw this other fastball that I don't know may not be good?
Mhm.
But man, he was so quick to understand how to use both those two fastballs, and again, similar to Bryce, like it was just constantly trying to work on the breaking balls, the changeups, the secondary pitches. But when it was game time, like it was just unleashing these two fastballs that are completely different, that are again like mid to upper 90s, just going in different directions at different parts of the zone. Um, it was fun to watch. There was a handful of Bryan Wu starts that were ridiculous how he used those two. And again, like first time seeing it, it's low slot, it's upshoot, it's 95, 96, and two fastballs are going two different directions. It was fun to watch kind of the looks on guys' faces when he unleashed those.
Yeah, I saw a image on baseball or MLB Network last year showing the Mariners pitching staff and how it's so unique. The starting rotation, you got Bryce Miller, Logan Gilbert, that the release is over the top, and then it kind of works its way down to like Brian Wu and Luis Castillo, to where you're seeing a different arm slot, a different arsenal, a different pitching style from each guy that you're facing, no matter which night you're going against the Mariners, which makes just that differentiation makes things that much harder on opposing ball clubs when they come into town.
For sure.